Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I want to run you through the Wavetable pack that I just released. I made a Wavetable pack that has been in the works for roughly 3 to 4 months. I've been spending a lot of time on it and really trying my best to create the systems that allowed me to make multiple wavetables of the same category. So I ended up with over 350 wavetables, and I'm just going to play you a demo and show you a little bit around the pack, show you a few of the different tones that are in there. And let's get right into that. So here I have a little demo project. All of the synths were made with the Wavetable packs directly. So what that means is that if you go into one of these synths, you'll see that it's just one of the wavetables that I'm using, and then some processing, a little bit of delay, usually some reverb, stuff like that, to just make the sound, you know, like a full sound. But other than that, there's not really like any other sound design techniques going on. There isn't really any big modulation, stuff like that. There's just very simple modulations like this, wavetable precision being modulated and all that kind of thing. So all of the sound that you're hearing, the tonality of it and what we associate with sound design is all coming directly from the wavetable. Now technically also the bassline is made with this Wavetable pack. This is the M Sound Factory patch that I've showed off a lot on my channel recently. If I go into edit and I go into the generators, you can see we have this wavetable here, which is included in the pack. It just does not include this wavetable, which is just the other wavetable with the fundamental removed, as well as this wavetable, which is a whole other thing. But the main wavetable that is used for the bassline is included in the pack, so if you want to make basslines with this pack, then there's also some material in there for that. But now let's have a listen to this demo track. So that's the demo, that's what I wanted to show you. Now I want to go into the pack itself and actually show you around some of the sounds and some of the different wavetables that are included in the pack. So I'm just going to open up a new instance of Serum. Now obviously these wavetables work with Serum, Vital, Faceplant, whatever wavetable synth that you have. And all you have to do is just access the wavetables folder, and then you'll see all of the subcategories that are in there. We have these atonal wavetables, which is the first category. What this is sound designed through some atonal sound design. It's not technically atonal when it's playing as a wavetable. This still has a tonality to it, right? It still has a normal pitch to it. But with the sound design, if you move it, you can hear that it does some weird morphs. And that's because it was originally designed as a non-tonal synth and then imported into, I believe, Faceplant, and then converted into a normal wavetable. So that's why it's called atonal. And there's some different variations of that. Now these don't morph really nicely sometimes, but one way that I like to use these kind of wavetables is just to note on random, and then you just add an arpeggiator in front, set that to 16 note, or any device that generates 16 MIDI notes, if you're using a different DAW that is. And then you just set this longer, go down here, and now you have this, which is already a nice starting point for a sound. You then add your delay and you're basically done making your sidetrend synth. And the cool thing now is with this setup, you can just browse through the wavetables and check which one you like most. So those are the atonal sounds. Let's now move on to the next one, which is bandpass sweeps. These are bandpass, very steep bandpass filters going over different waveforms. So this is very nice when you listen to the morphing. Let me just quickly turn this off, and now we just have kind of these static morphs here. These are very nice for sweeps in and of themselves. Obviously they're made from a sweep, so they're made from a sweep sound, which I then converted into a wavetable. And obviously these can also be used in the way that we saw before, where you have this random modulator on it, and then you use an arpeggio and a delay, and then you get something like this. The next category is combs. These use comb filter in the sound design, so you get a very iconic gritty type of sound. Let me actually play this through like this. You get that comb filter kind of sound. And there's a lot of different types of that. There's obviously a lot of different waveforms going into it, so you have a lot of tonalities to choose from. The same is true for the detuned. Now this uses 2 detuned oscillators to get the sound design. You'll hear that if you turn it up, you get more and more of that detuned feeling from it. Now this is still within one voice, so this is not actually detuning like you have here, where you have multiple voices. This is within the waveform itself, and all of the phase cancellation is already captured in the wavetable. And these are very nice to create leads if you want to like morph between slightly different tones. So for example, that would look like something like this. Let's place that, why not here in the fill. This track has an A sharp. So I just go like this. And then for a modulation, let's do something like this. Very, very simple. So that's how easy it is to sound design with these. Next up, I'm going to open up Vital to show you that it works in different packs here as well. In Vital, I also already have it in here. It shows up a little bit differently, but you can see all of the different wavetables that we have. The next section is FFT Morph. Now these use the FFT morphing that I showed a few videos ago. It uses that as its main ingredient in creating the wavetable, so you get very unique textures from that. These are definitely more on the extreme side of the wavetables. So you can hear that they're very gritty and very rich tones in this part of the pack. Next up we have the flanger tables. These are very similar to the comb filter tables, and you will later see that we also have one for phasers. So these sound like this. Obviously they use a flanger in the sound design, so you'll definitely hear that kind of characteristic in there. You can hear the characteristical flanger resonance kind of feeling. For the next wavetables, I want to show you how you can use them in Vital, and the reason for that is the wavetable that we have here isn't really the kind of wavetable that you would just play. So this is FM modulators, and these all contain modulators for an FM setup. So for example, if I take this one, you can just use it as a wavetable. It is very, very boring. What is cool about these wavetables is if you take something like this, where we just put the wavetable outside of the sound itself, and then we just use it to FM. I'm going to set up a full FM here. And then you get really nice, really gritty tones, depending on the type of carrier that you're using. So these were all made to use as an FM source for a different oscillator. The next group of wavetables are these FM Morphs. These are based on the sound design technique that Mute Production showed in one of his videos. And I kind of took it and created a lot more wavetables from that. He basically showed how to do this on a sine wave, and I expanded the process and allowed for it to be done on like every type of waveform. And the way that this works is that on the one side you have this kind of bubbly sound, and on the other side you get a clicky variation. So you can see this waveform is just the inverse of this waveform, and it's morphing between those two ideas. And obviously in between those two you get kind of a combination of the two tones, which can sound really, really cool and really crazy. And you can imagine that you can create loads of different unique synth sounds from this. The next part is the formants. These use formant filters for their main sound design principle, so they're going to sound very, very vowely. And you can hear that in the sounds as well. And the way that this works is that we have mixed variants where we have both a saw wave and a square wave. We have normal saw waves here where we apply the formant filter, and then we have square waves here where we apply the formant filter. So there's actually 3 types in there, and you can choose between which one that you want. Obviously they're going to have slightly different characteristics. This is a saw wave, here we have a square. Sounds a little bit colder, but also a little bit grittier. So obviously it depends on what type of sound that you want, and you have options for all 3 of them. You can also use the mixed one, which morphs between both of them, basically. Next up we have everything that I couldn't put in a different category. We have miscellaneous, basically. So these are a whole bunch of different kind of random wavetables that I've been creating over the years, actually. Some of these are very, very old. So these are just in here because I didn't have any other category in there that could handle these. I'll play through some of them to give you an idea. Next up we have these morphing tones. Now if you have been watching the streams while I was making wavetables a few months ago, these are the wavetables that I actually made on stream. And these use a variety of complex sound design techniques, so they're not in a category like formants or flangers or detuned or comb filter. They're a bunch of everything. So they're much more complex, but they also sound a little bit more crazy. You can hear that they are very, very complex and very, very differing. Obviously each of them was not really designed like the other ones where I just had a system and I would create 10, 12, 13 wavetables, whatever the amount is, from that same sound design system. I redid the sound design for each one of these wavetables, so therefore they're not really one category. Next up we have the phasers. Now this is very similar to the flangers, so you get some more like phasing action instead of the flanging. And they all sound very, very similar, as I said, but they do differ in terms of tonality and where the modulation is actually going. Next up we have resonances. These use resonant sound design, so very resonant filters or some other kind of resonance inducing sound design technique. So for example, the resonators in Ableton's effects was used for some of these wavetables. And the way that this works is that, again, there's multiple categories. We have the resonant square, we have the resonant saw, we have the resonant square randomized. So these use this, it uses a square wave, but all of the phases between the harmonics have been randomized, so you don't get that clickiness. You get more of a phased out kind of square wave. And then obviously we also have the same for the saw wave. So again, we have 4 different categories, and you'll hear the difference between them now. Let's go here. You can hear this is again colder, but more high end. You can hear again this is sounding colder, the square, in respect to the saw wave. The saw wave definitely sounds warmer, but this also sounds a little bit more high endy and a little bit crispier. And then we have the normal ones, and here you can definitely hear the click that exists within this wavetable. And the same is true for the squares, which instead of 1 click have 2 clicks, because it goes up and then it goes down again. You can see them here and here and here and there and there. There's some clicks that exist in the waveform, and that's obviously coming from the original square wave that was used to create this. The next category is saw waves. These are a bunch of different saw waves that have been processed in different ways and have been created in different ways. This is the wavetable that I mentioned before, which is used for my bass patch. You can see how it goes into a more and more processed looking shape here. We also have a normalized version of that, which is just a little bit louder if you want that. And we have a whole bunch of other waveforms that you can use. Here's another phased out waveform. We have this phase shifting version here, which looks kind of strange. We have some randomized saws here, so you can use one which has all of the phases of each harmonics randomized, and there's a couple of different options that you can like morph between. The difference between these different like randomizations of the same saw wave isn't that great. Like you can definitely hear the morphing of it, but if you just choose one and then choose another, they're basically the same. And obviously the saw waves here are mainly meant for bassline creation, so if you want to experiment with different saw waves for your bassline, then you can use the saw waves in this pack. Next up we have tool tables. Here there's a bunch of different like utilitarian tools. So for example we have the octaves of basic waveforms. Next up we have some volumes. Here we have DC offset, and you can see that it's morphing between the very highest sample and the very lowest sample. Then we also have full negative volume and full positive volume if you just want one of them. Obviously these don't morph, these just exist at a full negative or full positive volume. And then we have windows. These ones have been made so that they only use the positive space. And windows are really cool because you can use them for, say, a setup like this, where we use this to modulate the amplitude, and you will see that it will only let a certain part of the waveform through depending on which part is actually high and which part is low. We're obviously multiplying this value with the amplitude here, and then offsetting the phase can change where that window exists in respect to the original waveform. And there's some really cool and really crazy sound design techniques that you can do with this. Finally, the last category of wavetables is this vocoder style here. These use vocoders in their sound design, just like all of the other ones that are like in categories. And so they have a very, very resonant sound. These are very, very glassy, and they can be used to create those kind of glassy beats that you often hear. Not all of them. This is a good one, for example. What you can do is, again, use a random. Let's set that to 1/16. And then let's just assign that positively to the rest here. Just positive modulation, please. And we'll go up all the way to the top. And now you add your delay. We probably want to high pass this sound because there seems to be a lot of low end in here. And now you have another glassy type of sidetrend sound. Now hopefully you see that this wavetable pack is very extensive and that there's a lot of different things in there. If you want to experiment more with it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a bunch of examples as a free download, so you'll get a few of the wavetables from the pack. That way you can experiment with it more, and then from there you can decide if you want to purchase the whole pack or not. So there's going to be a demo version of the wavetable pack in the description for free for download, and there's also going to be the full version if you just immediately want to get the full version. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this little walkthrough. If you did, let me know by leaving a like, and if you're new here and you want to see more of what I do, which is mainly sidetrends tutorials instead of product reviews like this, then make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. But that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.
How much we allow our past experiences to define us.